You are listening to Something About Sports, a ZTOTV podcast.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Like the Big Ten, we are back with another episode of Something About Sports. I am your host, Jake Hollerman, and this is, of course, Something About Sports, your podcast that's, well, sports for people that don't like sports but want to talk something about sports. It's pretty easy to understand. Like I said, the Big Ten is back, so college is getting a little bit back to some normalcy, so that's great. But we wanted to talk tonight. I'm hop right into it like we always do. We're going to talk about records that probably won't be broken, because some of these are so ridiculous, and rules and health regulations and everything in sports may prevent most of these records from ever being broken. So first, we're going to talk about probably one of the greatest receivers, if not the greatest receiver, even though he was a 49er. And as a Rams fan, I hated the 49ers growing up. But he was one that he was so great that it didn't matter who he played for. And that's Jerry Rice. Jerry Rice has 1,549 career receptions. Okay, which is amazing. That's over a very long career. And I'll put it this way. The person in second place, who is also a Hall of Fame football player, is Tony Gonzalez, who only has 1,325 receptions. It means Jerry Rice has 200 receptions more than the guy that's in second place, and even 200 receptions in a career would be a pretty good career. Especially in today's NFL, where a receiver gets a knee injury and that's their career. They just move on to the next receiver that's in college. And that's crazy that 1 and 2 are both Hall of Fame players, Hall of Fame receivers, and there's a 200, reception difference. I don't see that one ever getting beat, because I don't see a receiver in the NFL ever being able to have the career. Like I said, they have one bad season, they're traded off to Buffalo, and they move on to the next kid out of college. So we're going to move on to the next one. We're going to go into baseball a little bit, and we're going to talk about Cal Ripken Jr., who has one of the craziest records that I think has ever existed in the history of sports. And that is, he had 2,632 consecutive starts. Okay. That's insane. 2,632 consecutive. If you said that a person had that number of starts in their career, that would be impressive. He did it consecutively. Okay? Now, and not only does that sound impressive, but to figure that out, if you're listening and you have a calculator nearby and you already did the math, that is 16 years. This man did not miss a start for 16 years. So I want you to imagine a child that is born today, and on their 16th birthday, them being able to say that a pitcher in the major leagues today had not missed the start of a game since their birth. That's insane. And what's funny, while looking at that, I saw a wonderful a rumor. So I will make sure that I specify that this is a rumor that the oil oils I can't even speak to that. That he played for actually supposedly, here's the rumor, canceled a game because he wasn't able to start because his wife had left him. So they canceled the game so that this streak would stay intact. Because it was a very mystery, like the weather was kind of bad, but they could have played, but they just, nope, we're canceling. People went, that seems a little fishy. And around the same time that, he's going through a divorce. That maybe that's a little fishy, but we won't say that's a guarantee because, like I said, that's a rumor. But 2,632 consecutive starts is an amazing feat. And what's funny, and talking about feats of consecutive starts, in the first episode we brought up Brett Favre. Brett Favre, equally as a NFL quarterback, had his really, absolutely impressive streak of 297 games in a row that he started. One of which that we talked about in episode 1, which go back and listen to that, and the tragedies with sports episode, which means his father passed away, and he started in a game the very next night, to which most people would not have blamed him for either not playing because his father had died less than 24 hours, or just playing like absolute crap. Like if he went out and threw 4 interceptions, the media would have been like, hey, his dad passed away 24 hours ago, lay off of him. No, this man went out and threw like 400 and some yards, 5 touchdowns, and like put on one of the greatest performances in Monday Night Football history, less than 24 hours. So, not only was he able to keep that record intact through that, he went out and put on one of the most impressive games in Monday Night Football history. I guarantee every year on, different anniversaries of Monday Night Football, they're going to show highlights of that game because it was amazing. Here's one that I found that on for our next one, is Wilt Chamberlain and 100 points. I word that way because, if you're watching basketball, like recording right now, I believe the Lakers are playing. But basketball anymore, 100 points is not that impressive. Like, if you maybe saw high school do it, you'd be like, well, that's pretty impressive that a high school scored 100 points. But in the pros, that's not impressive that you score 100 points. But his team did not score 100 points. Wilt Chamberlain, scored 100 points. He himself scored 100 points. That means most professional athletes where the team scores 100 points and they have a nice win would lose to Wilt Chamberlain, who scored 100 points himself. And here's another one of those, like, where the second place is just as insane, but the difference of them is what's insane. So the second place and the most points scored in a game is 81 points. That was scored by the great Kobe Bryant. May he rest in peace. He will be talked about in a future episode, more in depth. But yeah, he scored 81 points in the game, which I remember watching it because I remember my phone going off that Kobe was getting ready to score 81 points. And that was impressive. And it is a very impressive. I mean, 81 points, that is insane. Okay? Put it this way, if the difference between Wilt Chamberlain and Kobe, if you scored that in a game, that would be an impressive night. You'd be like, well, that was a good night of scoring. But they both, 100 points in one game. I don't think, honestly, okay, I have a 3-year-old. If we went outside and played basketball right now, and I said, here, buddy, you're guarding me, and I had, let's say, an hour, I don't think I could score 100 points. Like, that's insane. And he did this with professional athletes. Again, Kobe Bryant scored 81 points in a day that you had players like Shaq playing, Kevin Garnett playing, Allen Iverson playing. I'm pretty sure LeBron was playing by then. You have some insane athletes, and he scored 81 points in a game. So those two feats are amazing, but 100 points is insane. An entire team's games worth of points were scored by one man. And we're going to finish up with a name that if you watch baseball, you know. If you kind of look at sports sites, you may know. If you're one of our listeners that doesn't watch sports, you're going to want to learn this guy's name. And that is Cy Young. Cy Young was a pitcher. He is now more famous for having an award, the Cy Young Award, which is given to the best pitchers in Major League, to the point that actually both divisions of the Major League Baseball actually get their own Cy Young Award winner, which that's an award that every pitcher wants to win that year. And he had 2 of the most impressive records that I thought were the most insane thing that I had ever read. So he obviously had to be number 1 on our list here for this episode. And we're going to talk about both of them because, wow. The first one, which I'm sorry, will never be broken in major leagues because these pitchers today are nothing like this. But that is 749 complete games. Now, what you need to understand if you're one of our listeners that is not a sports fan is most pitchers are on what's called a pitch count. That means they will say, okay, this pitcher is only going to throw, let's say, 105 pitches. Once he gets to that number, they're going to pull him. They're going to grab another guy out of the bullpen, which is exactly what it sounds like. So you're going to pull in the backup. He's going to finish the game. Maybe you bring in a third guy just because he's a good lefty or, something like that. You don't have too many pitchers today that are doing the entire game. And if they are, they're sitting out for the next week or 2 or, they're resting their arms. This man, 749 complete games. So at best, in 749, okay, he pitched 9 innings. We're saying no game in that entire thing did he have to go into extra innings? Okay, so you're figuring 749 complete games times 9. Okay, I'm gonna let my mathematicians that are listening do the math there, because that's a lot of freaking innings. Because I'm not doing that math, because that's a very high number, and that's insane. I'm gonna let them post that in the comments of the page, what that number actually is, because I'm actually curious, but I didn't feel like doing the math because I felt like it would hurt my brain. And if that's not the most impressive thing, out of those 749 complete games, he also holds the record for 511 of those being wins. So of 749 complete games, 511 of those he won himself. That means he pitched so great that he won himself. They didn't say, hey, that means there was men sitting in a dugout, which is or the bullpen, sorry, that at that point you're drinking. You're smoking a freaking anything at that point. Hell, there may have been cocaine, who knows, at that point, because nobody's getting called in. At that point, they're just sitting there going, I know I'm not getting called in. Like, that's got to be the most embarrassing to be his backup. You're trying to hit on somebody at the bar and be like, I'm Cy Young's backup. They're like, oh, I've never seen you on TV. I'm aware. Like, you're just collecting a paycheck at that point. And, I mean, put it this way. If you had either one of those records, they would name an award after you. He has both. That is why not only is there one Cy Young Award winner each year, there's two. The ALS and the NLS both get a Cy Young Award winner. And I would like to assume this is not a fact. This is me wanting to make shit up at this point. And that is, I believe that the ALS award is for the 749 complete games. That record alone gets the award named after him. Now I think it's the NCLS. Sorry. Theirs is for the 511 wins. That now gets to be the award that gets him that Cy Young award named after him. And that is one of the most impressive things. Because I have sat through baseball games and thought, oh my God, they've gone through 3 pitchers. This man did it all himself. That is crazy. But that was some very impressive records that I honestly, in today's game, I don't think the players are made the way that they used to be. I think they're, to be honest with you, kind of wusses when it comes to it. But a lot of it also too is the studies that have been done on their health and getting a career to last 10 and 15 years, and not cocaine and the amount of alcohol that a lot of these guys on this list are, druggies and alcoholics today because of the pain that they went through for these records. So maybe the today's athlete is just smarter, but I think that's why none of these records will ever be broken. But I think that's going to be our show for this week. Just simple message to give to you guys through all this hard time. Stay safe, be smart. And if you ever find yourself in an incident where you need to talk something about sports, That's what I'm here for. You guys have a great night.